The Supreme Court just dropped 2 separate 9-0 hammer blows that change exactly how police can enter your home and use force against you. And if you own a gun and you have not heard about either one of these rulings, you're already behind. Here's a crazy stat for you. Only about 12% of people who watch videos like this one are actually subscribed. That means 88% of you are at serious risk of missing the legal updates that could keep you out of handcuffs. Do not be in that 88%. Hit the subscribe button right now, and let's get into the 2 decisions that every gun owner in America needs to understand before they walk out their front door. All right, let me set the stage for you. We are talking about 2 completely separate Supreme Court decisions. Both of them came down 9-0. That means all 9 justices, liberals and conservatives together, agreed on both outcomes. When that happens, it is not just a ruling, it is a legal earthquake. The first case is called Case versus Montana, and it deals with whether police can walk into your home without a warrant. The second case is called Barnes versus Felix, and it deals with how courts judge whether police used force legally during an encounter. Both of these cases affect gun owners directly, and together they create a brand new legal reality that you need to understand right now. Let's start with Case versus Montana, because this one hits closest to home, literally. Here's what happened. In September 2021, a man named William Trevor Case was living in Anaconda, Montana. His ex-girlfriend called 911 and told dispatchers that William was suicidal. She said he was in a dangerous mental state. Based on that phone call alone, police officers went to William's home. Nobody answered the door, but instead of getting a warrant, the officers forced their way in anyway. William was inside. Things escalated. He was shot and later charged with assaulting a police officer. William fought back in court. He said those officers violated his Fourth Amendment rights because they entered his home without a warrant. Now here's the big question the Supreme Court had to answer. Under what circumstances can police enter your home without a warrant in an emergency? Because the Fourth Amendment is very clear on one thing. Your home is the most protected place in the entire country. Searches and seizures inside a home without a warrant are presumptively unreasonable. Those are almost the exact words the court used. Presumptively unreasonable. That means the starting position of the law is that police should not enter your home without a warrant, period. But there is an exception. Courts have long recognized something called the emergency aid exception, also known as the community caretaking doctrine. The idea is that police are not just crime fighters, they are community caretakers. And sometimes an emergency is so urgent that stopping to get a warrant could cost someone their life. The question in Case versus Montana was, how high does the bar need to be before police can use that exception? William Case's legal team argued that police should need probable cause before they can enter. Probable cause is a legal term that means a reasonable basis to believe a crime has been committed or that someone is in danger. It is a higher standard than just a gut feeling or a secondhand report. The state of Montana argued for a lower standard. They said officers only need reasonable suspicion, which is a much lower bar. The Supreme Court chose a middle path. They ruled that police can enter a home without a warrant when they have what the court called an objectively reasonable basis for believing that an occupant is seriously injured or imminently threatened with serious injury. That is the new standard. Objectively reasonable basis. If you are finding this breakdown useful, I promise you my next video is going to go even deeper. I am going to cover the exact things you should and should not say when police show up at your door for a wellness check. The wrong words can open doors, literally, that you cannot close again. Subscribe right now so you catch that video the moment it drops. Now let me tell you why this matters so much specifically to gun owners. And this is the part that most people are completely missing in the coverage of this case. Here is a hypothetical example to make it real for you. Imagine a neighbor hears you have an argument with someone on the phone and calls 911 saying you sounded upset and they are worried about you. Police show up. You have a legally owned firearm collection in your living room. Under the new standard from Case versus Montana, if those officers believe they have an objectively reasonable basis to think you might be in danger, they can force their way in without a warrant. And anything they see in plain sight once they are inside, including your guns, can become evidence in a legal proceeding against you. Here is what most people get wrong about this ruling. They think it only applies in extreme situations, like someone is actively dying inside. But the court's standard is deliberately flexible. Objectively reasonable is not a precise measurement. It is a judgment call. It depends on what information the officers had at the moment they made the decision to enter. An ex calling 911. A neighbor reporting strange noises. Someone posting something alarming on social media that gets flagged. All of those could potentially satisfy the standard depending on the circumstances. Now, quick legal note, this is educational information and not legal advice. Every situation is different. If you believe your rights were violated during a police encounter, please consult a licensed attorney who handles criminal defense and firearms law. But wait, there is something even more important that connects directly to this first ruling. Let's talk about the second 9-0 decision. Barnes versus Felix, decided in May 2025. This case started with a deadly traffic stop near Houston, Texas. An officer pulled over a man named Ashton Barnes during a routine stop. The officer, Felix, stood on the side of the car and had his weapon drawn. When the car began to move, Officer Felix fired, killing Barnes. Barnes was unarmed. His family sued, arguing the officer used excessive force in violation of the Fourth Amendment. The lower court threw the case out. And here is why this matters so much for gun owners. The lower court used something called the moment of threat doctrine. Under that rule, courts only look at the single split-second moment when the officer fired. They ignore everything that happened before. Did the officer escalate the situation unnecessarily? Did the officer put himself in a dangerous position on purpose? None of that mattered under the moment of threat doctrine. All that mattered was, at the exact second the trigger was pulled, did the officer feel threatened? The Supreme Court said, no, that is wrong. All 9 justices agreed that the moment of threat doctrine is unconstitutional. Instead, courts must use what is called the totality of the circumstances test. That means the entire interaction must be examined. Every decision the officer made, from the moment he approached the vehicle, must be considered. The court said you cannot isolate one frozen moment in time and use it to judge whether someone's constitutional rights were violated. Now here is why this directly protects gun owners at traffic stops and police encounters. Think about this for a second. If you're illegally carrying a firearm and you get pulled over, that entire interaction is now legally relevant under this ruling. If an officer unnecessarily escalates the situation, if an officer creates a threat where none existed before, if an officer puts himself in a dangerous position and then uses it as an excuse to use force, all of that is now on the table in court. The Barnes versus Felix ruling gives gun owners and their families a stronger legal foundation when police encounters go tragically wrong. Hey, real quick. 73% of the people watching this right now are not subscribed to this channel. Do not be one of them. Thousands of gun owners come here every week for straightforward, no-nonsense legal updates. If you want to stay protected, stay informed, and stay one step ahead of the law, all you have to do is click that subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds, and it is completely free. Do it right now. So let me now tie both of these rulings together, because here is the bigger picture that nobody is talking about. Case versus Montana and Barnes versus Felix were both decided 9-0, and both of them, in different ways, draw new lines around how far police authority extends in your home and during police encounters. Case versus Montana expands the situations where police can enter your home without a warrant. Barnes versus Felix expands the situations where police can be held accountable for using excessive force. Together, these rulings create a new legal reality that cuts both ways. On one hand, police have more flexibility to enter your home if they believe it is an emergency. On the other hand, if police use that flexibility irresponsibly and an encounter turns violent, the entire sequence of events will now be scrutinized, not just the final moment. For a gun owner, this means 2 things. First thing, you need to be very careful about the information that is out there about you. A worried neighbor, an emotional text message, a 911 call from someone who is concerned. These are all potential triggers for a warrantless welfare check at your front door. Second thing, if you are ever in a police encounter that goes wrong, know that the new legal standard from Barnes versus Felix gives you and your family more legal protection than you had before these decisions. Here is what most people get wrong about their rights. They think their rights are permanent and unchanging, but the truth is that the legal boundaries around your rights shift every single time the Supreme Court issues a new ruling. What was true last year may not be true today. The law is a living document, and decisions like Case versus Montana and Barnes versus Felix rewrite the rules in real time. Your responsibility as a gun owner is to stay current. This information is especially critical going into 2026, as more cases involving gun rights, police powers, and search law are already lined up at the Supreme Court. Subscribe right now because my next video breaks down exactly what gun owners should do and what they absolutely should not do during a wellness check or police encounter under these new standards. That is information that could genuinely keep you and your family safe. So here is your takeaway from today's video. The Supreme Court issued 2 separate 9-0 rulings that every single gun owner in America needs to know about. Case versus Montana says police can enter your home without a warrant when they have an objectively reasonable basis to believe someone is in danger. Barnes versus Felix says courts must now look at the totality of the circumstances when judging whether police used force unlawfully. Both decisions change the legal landscape for gun owners immediately and permanently. If this video gave you something useful today, and I genuinely believe it did, please hit that subscribe button right now. I put real research and real effort into every video on this channel because your rights deserve accurate information, not guesswork. Subscribe, share this video with another gun owner who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below telling me which of these two decisions concerns you more personally. I read every single comment. And before you go, the legal reminder. Everything in this video is educational information only and is not legal advice. Your specific situation may be very different. Always speak to a qualified firearms or criminal defense attorney about any legal matter involving your rights. Stay informed, stay legal, and I will see you in the next video.